My name is Jim, and we're going to be talking about this Airlocker nail remover today on
Kilimanjaro.
This is the Airlocker AP700 punch nail remover. Now, it may look like a nail gun, your typical nail gun, except it's missing the magazine of nails. It's actually meant to take nails out of something. So it works very similar to a regular nail gun. There's a big cylinder up here, a big return spring. You pull the trigger, the air rushes in, slams that cylinder forward. There's a little piston on the end that sticks out the end. Instead of there being a nail that it then catches, you put this over top of a nail, and that piston drives the nail out and hopefully removes it out of your piece of wood. Now, this is by far the scariest tool that I have. The other tools I've got in the shop, they could hurt you much more badly than this. You know, my bandsaw will take your arm right off. If you get stuck in the lathe, it's going to wrap you all up. Stuff like that could really seriously injure you, but this is by far the scariest. When you pull that trigger, the amount of force this thing puts out is really terrifying. Also, this has no safeties on it. Most nail guns, your typical nail gun like this, you can't pull the trigger unless you push this down so that it knows that it's against something. So if you push it down, that's when you can fire a nail. This one, on the other hand, whenever you pull that trigger, that shoots out. If you're holding it just like this, happens to be against your arm or something like that, you pull the trigger, it's coming out, that little tip sticks out about 1/4 inch, it's going through whatever is at the end of it. Let me put some air on it and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. All right, I've got the air line on it and I've got my safety glasses on. Safety glasses are usually a good idea when you're ever using air tools, but specifically on this thing. I've had nails go flying all over the place, they bounce off the wall and they come back at you. It's really terrifying. So the way this works, you pull the trigger, slams forward, and then you can see there's a little rod that sticks out the end, sticks out by maybe 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch. You put this over the end of a nail, and that's what drives the nail out. So there's no safety, there's nothing. As soon as you pull the trigger, which is not very difficult to pull, it pops out, and that is going through anything that's in front of it. There's not a lot of features to talk about on this thing. It's not a particularly well-made tool. It doesn't feel super nice. But I suspect they're using like the same casting that Harbor Freight or something might use, and just a different adapter on the end of it. It does have this nice little air direct nozzle on the back here, so if you're using it and you want to use it over here, you can turn it so it blows away from you. If you're using it over here, you can turn it so it blows away from you. If you point it down, there's a little deflector, and that kind of kicks it back, and that's usually just how I leave it. Let's put it over some nails and I'll show you how it works. All right, so let's say you've got a piece of wood here, it's got a bunch of nails sticking out of it. You ripped it out of something, maybe you want to reuse the piece of wood, maybe you just want to take the nails out so when you throw it in the trash, the guy doesn't hurt himself picking it up. So you could just take your hammer, pound them out from the backside, then flip it over and you pull it out. But when you do that, half the time these nails are going to bend, it'll be a lot of work. Sometimes there's nails all along the board you might hit your hand on. Not the easiest thing to do in the world. So instead, you take your air locker, you put it over the end here, pull the trigger, and the nails just come right in. Super easy. Then you just flip them over and pull them out with your hammer or your crowbar or whatever. So these were just regular old 3-inch framing nails. This is just a regular piece of scrap 2x4. So pretty easy, not super difficult. Let's try it on something a little bit harder here. I'm going to try some of these. These are ring shank galvanized nails. I'll try them in the same 2x4. These ring shank nails are super difficult to get out, which is of course why you use them. Whenever you try to pound them out, they always bend over and it can be a real pain. You also can frequently run into situations where you've got a bunch of nails together and you can't hit just one with your hammer. You're going to hit all 3 of them at the same time, which is even more likely to cause some of them to bend, or maybe you miss and knock one off to the side. It can be a real pain. But with this, it's super easy. You just put it over the top there. And see, with that one, it wasn't able to drive it all the way flush, but you can just put it again. There you go. Has no problem fitting over them when they're close together. And then you can just pull them out. Super easy. Let's try it on a little bit of a harder piece of wood. So I've got here a piece of wood that came on one of the pallets that I got for something or other. It is really hard stuff. It is really difficult to deal with. Getting the nails out is a super pain. Now this is what this is really useful for. If you like to reuse pallets, there's sometimes nice wood in there. It's a pain to get all the nails out. This makes life a lot easier for that. However, you do sometimes run into this really hard wood. Other types of woods, they'll make pallets out of whatever they've got laying around, and they come from all over the world, so it could be any sort of random thing. But this still works great on even this type of wood. So I've just got some other those smooth shank nails. Just put it in, pop. Easy peasy, they're all driven out, no big deal. The other time this comes in handy is if you've got trim nails that you really can't pound out. You've either got to pull them out from the backside, which can tear up the front a little bit, or you just got to cut them off and just leave them there and paint them over. With this, you can get them out. You put this over the end here, and they just come flying right out the other side. Now you can pull out. So super useful if you've got some trim work that you're working on, you put it in the wrong spot, it's not exactly lined up, you need to take it down, something like that. Or you've got old trim you're pulling out and you want to replace. These little wire brads can be very difficult to get out, so it makes life a lot easier to do that. So I'm going to do a couple of things to show you just how dangerous this thing is. I know the violence of how hard it hits, it just doesn't come through over the video, the sound just isn't there. So first, this is just a piece of windowsill here. So you can see it punches, you know, 1/2-inch holes straight through this windowsill. It's going to do that to you too if it's up against your arm while you pull the trigger. So we got a little piece of steel here, just sitting on an aluminum block. I'm going to pull the trigger while it's up against there, and you can see how fast it goes flying. So it's crazy how quickly that lifts off. That would seriously injure somebody if they're standing down there. I've done it once or twice, and it embedded itself in the sheetrock at the end of the wall, probably about a 1/2 inch in. So the problem with that is also that sometimes, particularly if you've got like a thinner board that you have the nail in, it'll shoot the nail out and that nail will go flying across the room. So you have to be very careful. The Airlocker is an extremely useful tool to have. It makes taking nails out so much easier. It's particularly useful if you like to use a lot of pallet wood, so you're constantly breaking down pallets to reuse those for projects. It comes in super handy for stuff like that. Now, it's not the best built tool. It doesn't feel super nice. The casting is not, the best I've ever seen, but it works perfectly well. The ram that's inside is replaceable, right? It's always striking those nails, and they do have, replacement ones available. They're not that expensive, so that's nice to see. Do you want to oil it from time to time? That's going to really help its longevity. And it's not that expensive. You can get just this tool for about $70 on Amazon or the regular places. So, thanks for watching.